Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us on the Rochester Press Box. I'm Bill Pucko, joined as always by Tariq Spence, WDKX. How you doing, man?
I'm on my new set here, feeling great.
Yeah, I love how you did. Again, no one prepares better than you, Tariq.
Absolutely. Well, it is Memorial Day weekend, and so I figured why not a new background.
Yeah, and the patriotic Pat Duffy.
Obviously, with my Wings flag in the back and my super patriotic Fred Smirlis jersey today. So
awesome. Number 76.
Yeah. Well, I knew you'd like the New England guy, Bill. I knew you'd be into it.
Yeah, he went to a high school that wasn't far from me.
No kidding.
Yeah, Archbishop Williams High School in Boston.
There you go, Tariq. Now we know that.
We hated them. Hey, Tariq, let's talk a little baseball first. It was a 67-page document put out by MLB to describe what the game was going to have to look like for them to proceed in July. It had all kinds of stuff that won't be permitted anymore.
Bizarre, different. Players in the conditions just to go out there to play, all the people who can come into the facility and who can't. There's going to be no spitting. You got to, when you run the bases, you got to move away from a player. The coaches have to wear masks. No one's going to have any paper to give a paper lineup. Everything's got to be electronic. You got to wear batting gloves. It will be baseball, but because it's temporary and we're starving for it, I think we'll give it a try.
And Pat, Tariq pointed out to me that part of the regulations too is that the players are going to have to show up at the stadium in uniform.
Oh, they're home dressers now, which is, by the way, if you play beer league hockey, the worst guy in your team is the home dresser. Everybody hates that guy. But here's the alarming part, right? These things, although they're bizarre and make the sport a little bit different, aren't something to freak out and get angry about. But we're seeing baseball fans freak out and get angry about these things that aren't really going to change what the game is going to be, which alarms me when the NFL season starts back up and they will have some kind of restriction. Maybe not on the field, but what happens with the fans and all this stuff. Look, man, if we're going to have sports, it's going to be different. And if you're going to freak out and cause issues about it, we may not have sports, period. I am curious to see which major league athlete, whether it's baseball or the NBA or hockey or NFL, will knowingly break the rules just to make a point and what they're going to do after something like that happens.
Yeah, someone's going to. These are things like if the ball is handled by multiple players, they have to get rid of the ball. The first base coach, who had nothing to do in the first place, now can't talk to his base runners. So he has absolutely nothing to do now. Tariq mentioned that the coaches are wearing masks. There's distancing in the dugout, so that some of these guys are actually going to be sitting in the stands. They should be in the dugout. They'll be in the stands. And the thing that I think that's the biggest kick about is that the players are kicking most about not being allowed to spit. They think that's going to be the toughest part of this.
And the funniest part is that you didn't even go over the mascots. You can't have any mascots. What the heck? There's somebody in a full mask with an entire costume on. What did they do wrong? It'll be different. I think the biggest concern here is the fact that, yes, you can be mad. It's not going to be the baseball that you like. But here's the concern, and Duffy's right about that. You cannot have it at all. You can go another 260 days without it and be ready next year for 2021. Let's give this a try. Let's try new rules. Let's make it fun. And, hopefully nobody gets sick or hurt.
Yeah, and someone's going to get sick. So then what do you do? What's the next page? Do you treat the illness like an injury? Do you, disable that guy? Or, how do you do it? It's going to happen, and guys are going to get out. Guys are going to party. Guys are going to break those distancing rules. It's going to happen. So what do you do then, Pat?
Look, you're right. It's an impossibility that you're going to have every player from every league observe every rule all the time. Look, I don't think you can treat it like a normal injury because a spread ankle can't spread around a locker room immediately because someone wasn't careful with it. Bill, there has to be a document somewhere that states how many players on a team where the line is, these people are infected, we have to shut this team down. And then it raises another question. How many teams can you continue to compete with? If you can't field a roster, what do you do about wins and losses? Do you put everything on pause for everybody? Is it just last team standing at the end of the season wins the championship? Look, this is way more complicated than I think people think it's going to be. And you are now measuring playing sports under these new conditions and just letting it go and see what happens versus immune deficient players potentially and coaches and umpires risking their safety, potentially their lives to do it. There is something about this that makes me feel really, really uncomfortable.
We're the Rochester Press Box, and we're talking Buffalo Bills next.
Original Bay Goodman Pizza, located on the corner of North Winton at Browncroft. There are 3 ways to get the original Bay & Goodman delivery. Go to baygoodman.com.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. We are the Rochester Press Box, talking Buffalo Bills. Pat, I know you won't disagree with the assertion by Jim Kelly, who said this week that if the Buffalo Bills don't win the AFC East, there's something wrong. I don't expect you to argue with that, but was it okay for him to say that, to put the team on the spot that way?
I mean, look, Jim Kelly is Jim Kelly. He's been the rah-rah guy for years and years and years. Every quarterback they draft, it looks like he might be the one. I really like what they did. I don't put a lot of stock, and this is not a slight to Jim Kelly. He has to do this stuff, right? Like, this is his job, is to be rah-rah guy and get everyone excited. Bill, I do kind of disagree with what he's saying. Like, it's making me nervous that everyone believes it's a foregone conclusion that the Bills win this division. The Jets had a lot of bad luck last season. Injuries, the freak thing that happened with Sam Darnold. Adam Gase is getting used to a new roster. He's got a reputation. The Dolphins, I don't think, are a threat. But look, I don't think the Patriots are much. It's not out of the question that they could be something. And it's not out of the question to see the Bills fall back to earth either. I mean, you look at Vegas, they only have the Bills, between who you're looking at, a game to 2.5 games ahead of the Patriots. I think that kind of statement puts undue pressure on the team, and I think thoughts like that from fans might put undue pressure on the team.
If you're going to make a comment like that, and it's not a comment we haven't heard before, we've made it on this show ourselves, the fact that the Bills should have this division, except for you, Pat. You're a little worried about the Jets, but we're still in May. Like, we haven't even gotten to any players showing up. They can't even, like, literally Allen and Brown can't even be in the same room together. They're doing virtual training, and the pressure is now mounted to, well, it's winning the AFC East or not. And I think for Kelly, he's not wrong, but I'd rather this happen now than just before the season starts, when you're not quite sure what's going to happen with players or injuries. And Oliver's situation is pretty serious. So, I mean, you don't know where you're going to be in August. So say it now, get it out of the way, and then let's move on.
Well, 2 other things. To Pat's point about Vegas, at the beginning, I think this was after the Brady move to Tampa, New England was still listed as a favorite to beat Buffalo in terms of the number of wins. So that's trending in that direction. And then the NFL.com piled on this week by listing 9 teams that were potential dynasties to succeed the Patriots, listed the Bills among the 9 and placed them at number 6. I mean, there's some people out there that think that this isn't this is not a one-year thing, that this could last.
Right, look, this is a typical national NFL media thing to do, right? Like, you don't pay attention to the Bills when they potentially have something going on. They finally surprise you over the last, 2 out of 3 seasons, and all of a sudden they're the greatest thing that ever happened. It's these NFL analysts showing that they haven't watched the Bills the last couple of years. The Bills are going to be a much better team, but anybody that has watched this team the last couple of years, from a legitimate football standpoint, knows there are things that can go wrong. There are questions we need to find out. Is Josh Allen the accurate passer we think he is? Is he going to take another step forward? Is he going to stop playing recklessly? I mean, look at it this way. If, God forbid, Josh Allen misses a significant number of games this season, everything we just talked about means absolutely nothing. Right? You've got a 5th-round rookie quarterback or Matt Barkley, depending on who makes it out of training camp, as your starting quarterback, and we're back at square one again. So, no, I'm not ready for any of this. Everyone stop saying these things right now. You're freaking me the heck out.
But you wanted from. But what are you doing? You wanted from. You said they had to draft him.
Okay, hold on. I did not say they had to draft him. I said they would draft him. I need you to listen a little bit better to me, Tariq, when I'm dropping knowledge bombs all over the place that I told you was coming.
Tomato. It doesn't even matter to me. They have him now. What are you worried about?
I'm worried about him being a starting quarterback. You have a guy
Why did you
right now, at this moment. How many 5th-round starting quarterbacks, Tariq, just walk in and, look at me, I'm a star. Look, you can build the backup quarterback that you want, which I think is a great thing for the Bills to do. If week 3, he's your starting quarterback, you've got serious problems at Orchard Park.
Yeah, I think Barkley plays ahead of him, though. I mean, the Bills are going to have to keep 3.
I don't know. I think Barkley's gone. I think Fromm's your guy opening day.
Hey, we are the Rochester Press Box. Like it or not is next. Here's the Press Box Trivia question, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390. Here's the Press Box Trivia answer, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us on the Rochester Press Box. Tariq, The Last Dance is over. Like it or not? Did you like it or not?
I liked enough of it to want to watch it again. I liked the fact that they did address a few issues that were going on internally with the Bulls organization that we didn't know about or hadn't been covered in, 500 other books that have been written about the Bills organization. The Bulls organization. That being said, I will say they left some stuff out. And I understand that that's a Jordan documentary. It's going to be more pro him than anything else. He did let some stuff go. But overall, I don't say it was a perfect 10. I would say about an 8 for a documentary. I had a couple stories I wanted to hear.
Cool, Pat. What struck you most about the 10-part series?
Well, going further on what Tariq said, Ken Burns, who's done a whole bunch of sports documentary, Ken Burns baseball, as a matter, that's a big one. He came out and criticized the producers of this documentary for involving Jordan's people because it was going to allow Jordan to do whatever he wanted here. Look, you now have former players that were talked about. Horace Grant, for example, who was trashed in that documentary, came out and said, wait a minute, none of what he said about me is true. Jordan's the actual snitch. It's funny, if you watch The Last Dance, Jordan complains about Horace Grant running his mouth about things he shouldn't have. And this is a couple episodes after Jordan talks about he was the only one that didn't do cocaine and cheat on his wife when he was playing as a rookie with the Bills. With the Bulls. I did it because you did it, Tariq. I am skeptical of what is true and what isn't true after watching how Jordan ends up looking at the end of this thing.
But where's Horace Grant been? This documentary's been over a month now. We got comments from Scottie Pippen. We got comments from Isaiah Thomas. We've got comments from all these other players. Where's Grant been this whole time?
Well, but it goes back to what we talked about last week. This is a man who was told by another man he's not allowed to eat. I get why you would still hold that grudge. And going even further, Tariq, if you're Horace Grant and you're sitting at home wearing your rec specs, watching television, and you're going up against arguably the most powerful athlete in the world, I wouldn't want to start that fight again either until you're watching episode after episode after episode where he's just crushing you for absolutely no reason.
Well, you're going to wait for the end of the whole documentary to finally say something? Maybe he's got something nice for me to say in the last part. Oh, he doesn't? Oh.
I like that the last part was so pure basketball, that Utah series. And what really strikes me is it's above and beyond all the behind-the-scenes stuff is how good the Bulls were. They fought off, all these Indiana, the Knicks the last time they were good, the Jazz, the Suns, the Pistons, all these teams that came up to challenge them, and they took them all down. I just thought that was just incredible, Tariq.
Yeah, it was fun to watch. There's this whole sort of thing that you were supposed to hate these players, and these players hated each other in that era. I don't seem to see that. I see a lot of good camaraderie with players. Karl Malone went to go find Michael Jordan after losing in the finals to shake his hand. Where's all this sort of I hate you and I gotta beat you and all that sort of stuff? It seems like it goes a little too much old school, but then Malone shows some sportsmanship, and that's what athletes do today. They do that more today than they did back then.
In a time where the Pistons don't want to deal with the Bulls after, Jordan's 3, 4, 5 years into the league. He's just some kid, right? Whereas now, you watched his whole career evolve. These coaches now have played against him. Karl Malone has watched the way he's evolved. There's a different kind of respect. And on top of that, Isaiah Thomas got left off the dream team for not shaking his hand. Everybody's shaking his hand. Now I'll go out of my way to shake his hand and see what happens to me if I shake his hand.
Social distancing. Let's not do that.
Okay, you're right. I'm sorry.
It was really cool. I thought it was transparent, which kind of covered up the fact, which laid out the fact that, Jordan had final say in all this. It was designed to make him look good, and it did. But, man, it was 10 hours of real good entertainment. We are the Rochester Press Box. Unfinished Business is next.
And now to Eichel. He floated one.
Welcome back, and thanks for joining us on the Rochester Press Box. It's time for Unfinished Business. Pat Duffy, start us off.
As we wrap up the Last Dance documentary we were just talking about, right, there are a couple of things that struck me as I watched it. First of all, the speed of the game, the NBA back in the day, significantly slower, but you could argue the toughness was there, so it kind of evens out. Second thing was the way that the players were built, how skinny and small some of them were compared to the guys that we see playing in the NBA now that could actually step on a football field, play tight end, and catch maybe 15 to 20 touchdown passes every year. But the thing that struck me the most watching this documentary were the uniforms that the guys were wearing from the early 80s till the late 90s. One person in particular, John Stockton. How did nobody pull John Stockton aside and talk to him about the size of his shorts? Like, I get when he first started playing, right? Like, that's an accepted thing. Totally fine. We can see all the man thigh we need out of you. But, like, by the time he was in 1998, I still clearly saw upper leg here on John Stockton. And the reason I bring this up is not to leg shame John Stockton. He's got fantastic legs. They look great with the folded down socks. The reason I bring this up is this. Everybody thinks the era of sports that they watch are the coolest era of sports until you grow up and realize, oh my God, they looked like idiots. Just like we grew up and realized in our high school yearbooks, oh my God, we looked like idiots. When you're watching sports when it comes back, I want this in your head. What things are players wearing right now? 20, 30 years from now, we're going to look back and go, what the heck were these people thinking? Who is going to be the John Stockton man thigh of 2015 or 2050, excuse me?
For a number of people, everybody knew about the Jordan flu game. It's been the Jordan flu game since, 1997 when the finals took place between the Utah Jazz. Jordan, 17 points in the second quarter, wins game 5 on the road in Utah, 38 points, blah, 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 blah. How could he have done that through the flu? Now, through this new documentary, we find out he might not have had the flu. He might have been food poisoned. Or there's another theory floating around that he took a late back before playing that game in game 5 and was just completely exhausted. I don't know what the theory is, nor do I even care. It adds to the legacy and legend of Michael Jordan. We have these sort of stories that we have of mythological people that this is what they did. They lifted an entire mountain and all these other different things. Michael Jordan on the road was sick in a finals and could have laid down and decided, I'll come back for game 6. He didn't do that. I'll be ready for game 7. He didn't do that. He took a pivotal game 5 and won that game. It doesn't matter how he did it or what circumstances were. He still did it and will still be a legend for it.
Hey, what do Meryl Streep, Katie Couric, and Paul Rudd have in common? They were all cheerleaders once. Well, this was not a good week for being a cheerleader. Enter the University of Kentucky. Now, the University of Kentucky is the gold standard of college cheerleading. They've got, get this, 24 national titles in the last 36 years. What team in college in any sport can match that kind of record of success? Well, they got all 4 of their coaches fired this week. And yes, they have 4 coaches because they had a team-sanctioned getaway that included some hazing and some semi-nudity, and we all know how we love that. The school reacted by firing all the coaches, and the University of Kentucky has shamed the sport. Well, cheerleaders are different. I've been covering high school sports for like years and years, done interviews with all different sports, all different kind of teams. But cheerleaders are just different. It's most difficult among cheerleaders to get a straight answer really to just about anything. And I've never really been able to figure it out, whether it's a lack of self-awareness or perhaps over self-awareness. They should be better. I mean, they've already won the argument about whether cheerleading is a sport. They killed that argument. But then the University of Kentucky comes along and this happens. The cheerleading as a sport just can't seem to get out of its own way. If you have a negative comment about this, you contact Pat Duffy directly.
I would like you to thank you for taking all the heat off of me for everything I've ever said on this show ever. I appreciate it.
Don't you worry. His inbox is going to be flooded with thigh. That's all he's going to get is emails about men's thigh. That's all he's going to get. You guys take it easy. Next documentary should be on Tim Duncan. I don't know anything about him, but he's a great player.
Pat, who would you like to see?
Tim Duncan's thighs, if I'm being honest with you.
All right. I'm going to pass. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week for the Rochester Press Box.